What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations. I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner and 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. And then once a month, I host the only online conversation for fathers and dads in the world that's sponsored by Dove Men Care. It's also sponsored by Dad Central, Canada's national fatherhood organization. And I also am the board chair for the Global Food and Drink Initiative, which is a multimedia not-for-profit or non-profit that showcases Blacks in the diaspora that are involved in food, wine, and travel. It is April 10th. We're broadcasting live. And do you know what time it is? Well, if you don't, you should know what time it is. It is Staggers State of Things with Aisha K. Staggers and Jill Jones. They are ready to drop knowledge bombs on what's going on in America or some of the things. So guess who we have here? There they are. What's going on, ladies?
Great Saturday here in LA. It's beautiful.
So question, are your areas shut down or is it gradual? Is it open?
My state is opened up.
Mine's pretty much opened up. I mean, it might as well be because there's just so many people out.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
My state was the last one to open up at all in any capacity. So now we're at 100%. But cases are going up, so our governor might pull back on a few things.
It's funny, your people haven't been complaining as much as everybody else in every other state. It's so interesting.
Complaining about opening?
Just complaining about closing. I mean, we don't really hear Connecticut, screaming and yelling like, everywhere else. I mean, we're having a Ku Klux Klan rally, white power rally today in Huntington Beach.
What?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, typical. Huntington Beach is the Florida of California. California is like, Huntington Beach is like Florida it's really just it's very interesting considering, how many different minorities live there too, but you wouldn't know it with the way the people of color from Orange County tend to want to just go there and claim that as their own. But hey, good news, guys. There's one exciting thing just for a quick blip.
Yeah.
In Manhattan Beach, which is like next door, it's still in the Orange County area, I think. Years ago, it used to be a beach where Black people would go for like a resort holiday. There was a family that owned this land and the Ku Klux Klan ran them out, terrorized people. And then the city, at the time, the legislation, they created some kind of eminent domain and took their land. Well, they're giving back whatever parcels that they can. One is a park to the descendants of the ancestors who this happened to in the 1920s and 1912. Nice. Yeah. So they're giving them something back, which is a nice reparation for those families. Yeah. Obviously, they can't give them back the whole, beachfront, but you have to remember in 1912, 1920, Black people couldn't go to the beach. So these people bought this land and created a really nice resort area for Black people. And then white people got upset because it really does have really nice waves, Manhattan Beach.
Well, up where I am, we're closed down for the third time in the year.
Oh wow!
Yeah, our numbers are going skyrocketing up almost to they're almost at 4,000 this week.
Is it the new variant?
Yeah, and what's happening is that they basically passed a law now that if they need to transfer patients from one hospital to another hospital, they're not needing their permission anymore because it's that strained on the health system up here.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So it's really serious up here.
That's wild for you guys.
Yeah, there's a lot of questioning going on about our provincial and federal governments because this time you guys down south seem to be way ahead of us on this one.
It seems like this virus, sort of has been doing that with everybody. Started out strong, then everybody has had their really bad moments. Everybody sort of went through a dark phase, except, I mean, yeah, everybody, except it seems like Israel didn't.
No,
Yeah.
no, Israel did not. No.
No.
They did not go through a bad stretch at all. By the way, did that gentleman Bibi win his last election? I know they had an
No.
election just recently.
Well, he get
Indicted.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He was
but there
on
was just
trial.
they've had so many elections in the last few years. Like every time you blink,
That's
there was
true.
another election. So I know there was one a few weeks ago. I don't know. I guess we would have heard if he would have got a majority. So I guess not. But ladies, let's get at it. The number one topic for the next few weeks.
Yeah.
Derek Chauvin trial.
Yeah.
4 big takeaways from prosecutors. Very strong second week. Both of you have been following this more than me. Was it a very strong week for the prosecution in your mind?
Yes.
Absolutely.
It was.
Absolutely. I was riveted by the testimony of all the experts that they had come through, because one, they made it very clear that George Floyd did not die because of an overdose. They made that very clear. And as much as Chauvin's defense tried to poke holes in it, I mean, what is his attorney's name? Nelson?
Eric Nelson.
He jumped through hoops. I mean, he was like, well, suppose that my client's knee wasn't on his neck and, there was no drugs there. Would he have died? He went from heart attack to drugs, back to heart attack. After they said there was no possibility of drugs, it was like his argument had to change because the evidence that was presented was so precise, especially that Dr.
Tobin,
who was the pulmonologist, who, I mean, when he explained how people breathe and how breathing actually works, and pointed out the exact moment when George Floyd took his last breath, and showed on the video what exactly happened, and then asked the jurors, to feel on themselves, on their own neck, where, how things take place. It was really compelling.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that the testimony by Dr. Tobin was exceptional. He was a pulmonologist, so for him, he's explaining essentially, the process of what George Floyd was going through on a physiological level. And some of most of it, you couldn't even dispute him. He was charming. He was personable. He had the jury was touching their neck. They were doing everything he was suggesting for them to understand it themselves. He was fantastic. So we're definitely in a very bizarre time in this trial, because I've heard that they're bringing on a very renowned forensic pathologist themselves, who's from South Africa, from Maryland, and he too is a force, because he's testified so many times for many trials. But it seems that Chauvin's people keep wanting to push the fentanyl and drug abuse issue about George Floyd, the pills that were found. But when Tobin had all these graphs, he had animation, everything going to show you what was precisely happening. It was pretty mind-blowing. And it was great the strategy that the prosecution set him up first, that to dispel everything else, because it's almost like they're doing a reverse prosecution. It's like they're presenting everything that the defense is going to use to defend Chauvin. So actually they get the narration on it first. They actually, I've never quite seen a trial this way, where it's very art of war, like knowing what your enemy's going to say. It's like when I was getting divorced, I remember later on, after everybody was getting along and talking, I was like, how did you approach your case? And I remembered that my ex-husband had said, I went in and I found a lawyer who told me how he would defend you.
Okay. All right.
So when you do that, what happens is you're always a little bit of a jump ahead of the game in a really weird way. And that's kind of like watching this happen. It's very smart, because oftentimes I didn't agree with some of the experts. I was getting nervous, like, why are they saying this? This is just playing into the hands. And it's like, no, this is being said to get the narrative on it, because right after they say something, there's something that comes right back and does a slap method on it, so hopefully the jury gets that. We'll see.
Yeah. And I did like the doctor, the female doctor, who was talking about how drugs metabolize in the body, so that when the defense tried to bring up the whole fentanyl thing, she basically was like, he had so little of it in his system. Then they switched to another drug. Well, what about meth? And then, she basically she explained how things were metabolizing. And he brings up this study out of Ireland or something. And the prosecution rebutted and asked her if she knew about the study. She said, I do. And I don't know why he's bringing it up. And I thought that was amazing.
Right.
I thought that was great.
Yeah. It was great, because they did with Tobin as well about certain trials or how because really what it brought into question was this awful, but it's lawful defense, which is that the police departments are using these chokeholds and all these knee on neck procedures and processes. They're actually training. And remember, last week we saw all of these police officers defending, talking about, this is not what we're teaching in training. Well, the reality is they're teaching something, or they may not be teaching it, but it's not being monitored, and it's certainly not being prosecuted the way it should, because there wouldn't be as many police officers out there doing what they're doing.
Right.
Derek Chauvin has had 18 complaints against him. And the fact is, this was bound to happen, because he was on a road to hell, He finally, it ultimately ended up because everybody kept slapping his hand or looking the other way. I don't think we're going to be allowed to see that evidence. But the interesting thing is that when you look on his death certificate, it says homicide from the medical examiner. Now, they tried to break apart that homicide doesn't mean the same thing for medical examiners as it does in a lawful way. I found the medical examiner to be a bit of a loosey-goosey. I wasn't quite sure where he was coming from. I feel like he's a very political type of person who tries to say as least as possible, but actually talked to so many different agencies, the FBI, everybody came to him at the beginning. He ran his mouth so much that he got caught up in a trick bag a little bit up on the stand, because but he did have the good sense to keep saying, but I'm not a pulmonologist. That is not my expertise, because all he can do, there are certain things, like the woman, Dr. Lindsay Thomas, had said, there are certain things that happen once the body is dead with saturation levels, certain things that happen where, things are undetectable. And the main thing that Eric Nelson, the attorney for Chauvin, they keep trying to push across, that there were no marks. And did you see anything in the autopsy with the windpipe or any kind of pressure on the neck? And he said no. And then, Eric Nelson he tries the case with a lot of hypotheticals. Yeah. I'm finding the judge not, doing his job as much as he should, because the whole case is just like, and if the police pick up a paint can, and then he made some crazy thing like, well, if I'm laying on a beach on my stomach on a vacation, it's so like not even in the relevance of what they're talking about. And I did feel, that I think this is the time when actually a defense would have another attorney who has more of a medical expertise working with them. It's very curious that this guy's trying it all himself. It's very strange. It's because he's befuddled and he gets ahead of himself. But that being said, I'm very concerned still about the jurors, because there's been, complaints about them twice now. I don't know if it's the same woman. She got a text from her mother-in-law. And they also, there's one
watching
that they're
TV.
saying has a book deal and was watching TV.
Yeah.
These are things that if Chauvin is convicted, they can go in and try to appeal. So it really annoys the hell out of me that the judge didn't sequester them in the first place, because that's what he should have done. It's pretty damning, not to blabber on, but the evidence against Chauvin, because Dr. Tobin said, you can see when the air left his body. And even I said that, like, he's here, now he's gone. Like, basically he's dead. And Chauvin still sat on him for 3 more minutes. And then, even in the middle of that 3-minute window, you had Officer Lane who said, I'm not getting a pulse. And he continued to sit for 2 minutes and like change on him. So if that's not some kind of depraved intention, the intent there was to murder him. The biggest question is why? Because it's really over a $20 bill. Why?
Right. Yeah. And that brings you back to the testimony of the 19-year-old that worked at the store, because they never even, here's the other part. No one ever really went to go back and see if the $20 bill was fake in the first place.
I know. And even when they had the young guy who is heading up, there's an officer, he testified, he was the head of the investigation. And no one really clarified that. They said there was an envelope of another $20 bill, but I still am not really 100% sure. Was it? And even if it was, I mean, it's not like they were running. I don't know. Something is just still off about that. You're right, Aisha.
Chris is saying, good evening. Oh, Dr. Tobin was terrific. I felt very good about the prosecution's case after this week's testimony. That said, I am still amazed that there even has to be a trial. The defense does not look good with the apparent focus still on drugs. Move on, Mr. Nelson.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then he says also, if any jury needed to be sequestered, it's this one.
Absolutely.
Yeah, when it came out that the juror had a book deal, when the judge called that juror into chambers and found that out, they should have automatically placed the alternate.
Right.
Yeah.
Immediately. And we only have 2 alternates now. I was under the impression that there were 4.
Oh, me too.
But there's only now 2 all of a sudden. But I thought for sure there were 4. That being said, those are a couple of things that, how are you going to have a book deal? Somebody pitched you what, when, where, how, so there have been a couple of really suspicious things that have come out, and whether they are kicked off the jury or not, there's still, and if he is convicted, there's still the potential for them using what the judge is doing against him later in an appeal.
Yeah. And the book deal basically means that you've been bought.
Sure, you have.
You've been bought. And that means that whoever your publisher is can tell you how to vote.
Exactly. You're not getting a book deal on what was the fashion inside the courtroom.
Exactly.
You are being, and this is as a real testament about what's happened to American people and why we have the problems that we have. Everyone is a sellout. I mean, there's, everybody also is a narcissist. They think everything that they do is so bloody interesting. And there will always be somebody who wants to pay for it or listen to it. But I mean, there's no integrity when it comes to the judicial system and the law. Come on, that's pretty bad. That's really bad. And I think that, because it's like you have to go, okay, they all agreed on these jurors. And then you start to go, well, do we have to investigate if they knew each other before or prior? Or do we need an investigation to see how that person even got there? It's a bit much, and it's really tiresome. And people always turn around and go, I don't know what, American people aren't all like this. Well, it's those scales are really tipping on our level of integrity here. This is why we have gun violence. This is why people don't want to evolve. And this is why we use the lowest parts of our brains in this country, the part of the brain that doesn't evolve.
Yeah.
Wow.
We have this this culture of we have a culture of narcissism. And it's and when you look at it in this trial, its foundation is white supremacy. Mm-hmm. When you look at the narcissism in here, because Chauvin thought that he was playing God.
But it's also what we have here is this fine line where everybody is fueling their way to make a living. And now people are products on any capacity. Somebody's always hawking something. Somebody is always compromised to some level here. And that's the bad thing. What happened? It's like corporations became people and people became just jerks.
So Chris is saying here, the juror with the book deal should have been toast once it was brought to light. That
I agree.
That right there makes me question the impartiality of the judge. Just throwing that out there.
I totally agree.
Thankfully, it happened late on Friday, so I think it gives the prosecution the weekend to really consider asking that this juror be removed.
Mm.
In your opinion, ladies, should the juror be removed?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. How could you
compromised?
Trust them? Yeah.
And not only that, but it's the same juror that was watching television, which they said that they were watching a recorded program,
right?
Which tells me that they were trying to see what else was going on. That's what the news report said, that they were trying to watch a recorded program to see what else was going on in the world. Well, your instructions were that you weren't supposed to see that. And this is the reason why they need to be sequestered.
Well, they also need to investigate the publisher and look at the chain of and also who they know and how this works, because it could just be a plant. It could just be somebody created this fictitious book deal in order to create opportunity. Derek Chauvin had gotten funded from a GoFundMe account. Which is crazy to think. Like his court case was like crowdsourced.
But so is Dylan Roof's $4 million is crowdsourced, and it's like it. When you think about that, he killed 9 people in a church, and still people wanted to donate to his defense. So it's not surprising that Chauvin's defense was crowdsourced.
I mean, well, if it's any consolation, and knowing from doing a little bit of legal work in my past, that can go really quickly. And in a case like this, I mean, that's the only thing I can think of is like they're going to have to cough up probably double what they've already given, because attorney fees are very high. So
Oh
are
yeah.
paralegals, so are the researchers.
Yeah.
So, you know, with any, you know, luck here, they just don't have the money. Obviously, something went on, because he doesn't have but one attorney, which is crazy, particularly when you're dealing with the medical aspects. If you're that,
and he doesn't have good attorneys. I gotta say this: Nelson is a horrible attorney. Like I said on Twitter, he's got to be on that stuff that he's trying to say that George Floyd was on, because some of these questions that he asks, it's like, did you just ask a question for the prosecution, or are you defending your client?
I don't know if he's a horrible attorney. He has a horrible case, which
Yeah.
everything, this is what any attorney is going to sit there with evidence
Yeah.
that is compiled against their client. I mean, it's pretty, this case is a dog. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
it's a dead dog on arrival. If all you could try to be as instrumental in is to make sure you find a couple of dumb jurors and who have implicit bias. That's all, and have no integrity. That's all you can hope for. All you need is one, and you got to hope that they're strong enough to hold out. That's the whole thing. Because, but see, I'm feeling like if you were picked as a juror and you were able to be contacted by, whether it be a publisher for a book or anybody out from the outside realm, that was already a violation. I mean, that means a media person could call you. That means anybody could. So in my mind, I would throw you out and you'd be gone. It's just bad.
Yeah, it's very weird, because it seems to me like this person went out and sought this out before the trial even started. It's like as soon as they were seated as a juror, they started making some calls.
Right.
And at that point, I mean,
and even if it's someone in their family, I mean, it's a little strange. Yeah,
there's got to be there's something more behind that, and I think that is something that should be looked at, and that's why I'm kind of glad that the news didn't break until late Friday, because it does give the defense time to figure that part out. Had it happened during like 10 o'clock in the morning on Friday and they kept going, it would have been really bad. It would have been really bad for the prosecution's case.
True. Very true.
Absolutely. Well, trial goes on. I've been told it's going to go on for at least another 4 weeks. Yeah. So there'll be lots to chat about. And some people are watching live. Thank you so much for watching live. If you have any comments or questions, put them in the chat room and one of the ladies or both of them will answer. Next up, DMX was a talented and perfect young gentleman, an anti-hero and an icon. He was one of us. What do either of you have to say, if anything, about the passing of DMX?
It was devastating for me. It was another blow to, like, okay, yet another part of my youth gone, because, like, you know, wow, I was like 22, I think, when DMX, you know, first started coming up and listening to it, and that was like the soundtrack of that time of my life. And just the music sticks with me. And, you know, he had his demons, but he put them in his music. And he was always very, very spiritual, in a sense that he always spoke of there being something more than whatever situation you were in terms of your faith and believing in God. And I think that his not just his passing, but his life has to remind people that, you know, celebrities are human. They're imperfect beings. And I think too often fans tend to place their icons, the ones that they, look up to, on pedestals, and don't believe that they have these demons and things that they're going through and things that they're living with, because they don't live them publicly. So it's just sad.
Yeah, it's a terrible way to die.
And so young.
Yes. 50 years old.
He was young,
50
really
years old. It's just, it's so sad. Yeah. T. Stevens.
I mean, when you look at the difference.
That's going back to the previous topic. T. Stevens saying we have a culture of people with reprobate minds.
Yeah.
Very true. I mean, when you have a situation like Prince Philip, who lived to be 99, and then you have the other one, DMX. I mean, it just goes to say, I mean, it's in Sakura season, which is Sakura in, I think, Japanese means it's the cherry blossoms, and the cherry blossoms represent, they only bloom for a short period of time. So it's kind of like the symbol is life is beautiful, but it's short. And, it's something that I don't think that we pay enough attention to. I think I don't really know much about DMX's music or much about him, but it's sad that he passed away. I might have been out of the wheelhouse on the age thing for that. So, but it's quite sad. I heard about Midwin Charles, the commentator who passed away from on CNN, or one of those people, announcers. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely, it's tragic, but I don't know.
It's unfortunate.
It's unfortunate.
One of the things that I've been paying attention to are the different stories that people have been sharing about DMX. That, Gabrielle Union had told this story in 2017, and it just resurfaced about how much he loved the Golden Girls, how he thought it was, just the funniest thing, and just, little things like that. And people share videos of him dancing at a Armenian wedding, and
What?
just little videos and things like that.
Nice.
And just, that last verses that he did, I'm so glad that he was able to do that, him and Snoop. And
yes.
I'm glad that I was able to see that. And that's like one of the last appearances that he made live.
Absolutely. Well, let's move on. Biden calls U.S. gun violence an international embarrassment.
Sorry, not sorry. And he should have said sorry, not sorry afterwards.
What's going on with gun culture in the U.S.? Really and truly, let's hear it from both of you. It's like, it just seems that it's gone out of control.
Too many people misunderstand our Second Amendment. That's number one. Too many people misunderstand the right to bear arms and what it means, and what the actual initial intent was behind that. Because there wasn't a regulated police force. There was no FBI. There were no police departments across the country. There were individual citizens who got together as militias to protect their own. And the guns were, individuals could have guns, but the intent was, if they were going to form a well-armed militia. We didn't even have a military at the time. So, and that's why, the kind of guns that they intended for people to have were not even the kinds of guns that we have available now. Gun technology has advanced over the years. The law should advance with the technology, and it hasn't. But more than that, we shouldn't live in a country where there are more guns than there are people. And that's one of the saddest things. And I always feel this way. if you object to having to get a license to hold a gun, to having a background check or any of that, then you're the person that doesn't need to have one. Because if you're not okay with, if you're not okay with that, but you want people to be basically fingerprinted and background checked and ID checked just to vote, but you don't want any of that to hold a gun, then something's wrong in this country.
So Jill, let me ask you, who in America, in your opinion, should be able to own a gun?
I really just think that law enforcement or people who can pass a background check and should have mental mental checks every year annually. I think that I don't believe in hunting, and I certainly don't believe in gun ownership. I think what we're seeing is a product of all the many, many, many years of glorifying violence in this country. I hate to say it. It wasn't art. It was glorifying violence, and it gave people a taste in their mouth and in their spirit. They found some kind of resolution. They find it in video games, and I know, and I'm a liberal saying this, and I don't give a damn about your amendment right to have a gun anymore because you violated that. They've basically, and that goes for everybody, even the ones that go and find guns and get it. If you're qualified to have one and you meet the requirements and you want to moan because you think it's just your right to have it, I don't believe in that. I don't. I think it plays to the lowest common denominator of people. I mean, here we are today and we talk, okay, DMX passed away, but all of his let's really be honest. What did some rap music contribute to our culture? Yeah, it was fun at a party because we weren't going to go out and pick up a gun, but there are some people who actually are not that smart and have low IQs or are impressionable or insecure.
Children.
You can call me whatever, children, people not at home. In sociology, it all works together. Just as I say to people, we're all connected as human beings. We're all connected in everything that we do. When I was saying a friend of mine was walking across the street in Germany on a red light and someone turned around and said, they were really upset with them, a German person, and said, children are watching you. We have no respect, let alone self-respect. It is, the trash nation. And it's like sell out, buy out, as long as you have fun, glorify the wrong stuff. It has nothing to do with religion, in my opinion, of like what you're worshiping. And pull God into it.
Right.
I am so sick of hearing about God on every award show for some of these people. I've never, that's not my God.
Oh, right.
I tell you this. I watched this video over the winter of
Chris said after Sandy Hook.
Yeah.
There's no hope. We did
Yeah.
nothing. They never will do anything. Sorry.
Yeah. This couple, there's an interesting thing about that. But this couple, they were going out to shovel snow. And, their neighbor shouted something to them. They shouted something back. They had a video camera from their window.
I saw it.
Facing out. And the guy goes back and he gets a gun and he shoots them both dead. And it's like, who's to say that people aren't going to let their tempers get the best of them and just go get their gun? That's what scares me. And when you talk about Sandy Hook, it's like people were telling this mother over and over again that there was something wrong with her child. What did she do? She kept buying him guns. Well, guess who the first person was that he killed? The person who bought him all the guns. And it's so bizarre because when right before that shooting happened, my state was going to have this summit with Eric Holder about doing something about the gun violence in our cities. and they were focused mostly on Black and brown kids. They weren't even looking at white kids. And then what happens is, because those weren't the kids or people that they thought were, bad with the gun violence. But then this happens. And then, all of a sudden they're rushing to do something. They're rushing to do something when gun violence has been horrible in this state for years.
But here's the worst part of it, is that it's been going on for so long that people developed a tough shell about it.
They're numb.
Coping mechanisms. It's like, in Russia, when the crazy guy went in, or the Netherlands, he went into the school, whatever, toot sweet, that was shut down. In Germany, you can have a gun, but you have to meet a lot of requirements to get the gun. First of all, what is it, $2,500 for the license? I mean, they need to up the ante here. But we have a lot of really insecure, patriarchal men who are never going to amount to anything except what the size of their gun is. And that is the truth. And a lot of people have been reckoning with that in their lives, that this is as far as I'm going to go. But instead, you have the Republican Party that totally politicizes the crap out of it and just uses these shells of human beings to vote for them. Yeah. These are people that are soulless. Anybody in their right mind would say, let's come up with a really great system. But as I keep saying, somehow the people in this nation are back here in their brain. It's the lowest part. That's where they are. And they don't want to move from it. They're happy. We want it to be like it used to be. I started thinking, everybody opening up for COVID. Yeah, we could be like we used to be. What you going to do when the next pandemic comes? Did you plan? Did you make any kind of shifts or think about just moving forward? Americans have a very bad time, which are the most unrefined people on the planet. Totally disgraceful. And Joe Biden's right. It's embarrassing. Like I said, I always pretend I'm not American when I travel. And I'll say I'm from Canada before I'm from here, because we're hated and we're loud and obnoxious. And some of us are just greedy. And I'm not saying it doesn't exist all over the world to a degree, but that's our imprint. I mean, to the point where you go to a country like Japan, and yes, there's a bit of monoculturalism there. And you go, wow, I would really hate to see too much more Westernization coming in here, because there's such a beautiful culture here. But America its culture is diversity. It needs to embrace that. There is the monoculturalism that would be here, would be swinging bodies from the tree every day. Somebody's taking somebody and killing them. That's the culture. And when you try to have it with people about their heritage or their relatives or their ancestors, you don't know them. What does it matter to say, they were dicks? They were awful human beings. I hope I didn't inherit a gene. Which, another interesting thing, back to the George Floyd thing really quickly, there's some kind of gene stuff going on with, they detected the sickle cell trait. Yeah. Well, I think it's really fantastic, but I also think there are traits of people. There are people reincarnated. I'm convinced that Stephen Miller from Trump's thing is Goebbels again, because he even kind of looks like Goebbels. But back to the thing about guns, there's just something that everybody has become numb and they're accepting. And more importantly, they're fearful men. It's the patriarchy. And even a woman today stabbed a bunch of her kids. People have lost their minds. We have a mental health problem here, and they really need to be building buildings to put some people and lock them away forever.
All right.
I mean, if you want to AR-15, yep.
Yeah, Aisha, can I just interrupt you, because we got a whack of comments that I want to just catch up on before I let you back. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so here we go. Birdie Lynn, it's imbalance in the way people can acquire these guns. She's saying also, instead of building a wall, they should be funding mental health requirements. when hiring police and government officials.
Them too.
She says it is embarrassing. Chris says nobody needs an AK assault
But that's
weapon.
what I was going to say.
Period.
I agree.
Those weapons are for killing humans. They are not for protection. I still stand strong on the belief in the right to arm bears. Okay. All right. Yes, exactly as emotional people are. Chris says again, if after Sandy Hook, a few miles up the road here, did not change gun laws,
I know.
I doubt that anything will. The sadness in Newtown, Connecticut is still pervasive. That will never go away, sadly.
That was the day America's soul died, and it never was resurrected again.
Yeah. And when you know one of those moms.
So when people see COVID, it's like they didn't care. They didn't care about a bunch of babies. Yeah. They had to, even men, grown men who need their faces like just mowed off with who came up with conspiracy theories about these children not existing. They've tried to do it with Parkland as well. This has to stop. But
well, that's my whole thing about the AR-15s. It's like the damage that if people could see the damage that they do to a body.
They don't care.
An AR-15,
you know what,
AR-15 is,
I don't believe that. They don't care. They did. Some people have, and they don't care.
Yeah. I mean, our state made the decision. They made a law. They passed a law so that those children's photos in the crime scene photos and the autopsy photos never get released. They created a law for that.
You're talking about people that sit and find it entertaining to go on the deep web and see murders, all sorts of stuff. This is where we are. The internet needs to be regulated because I don't think people have there's sense and then there's good sense. And I don't really believe that most people have good sense.
But I say this about the AR-15s. If you feel like you need to carry one, then you need to join the military.
No, I mean, we've had enough of them too. They're not fit to serve because they're wacko.
They're not fit to serve.
They're not. We can't even get good police officers.
No, we can't. But
they're fucking mental.
This is my point. If you feel like you need to do that, then have the bravery to go serve. These people
if you feel and you know somebody like that, you need to get on the phone and call somebody and say, "Can you pick up Jerry tonight because he's fucking crazy and he's going to kill somebody."
No, but if you want to hold a weapon like that, then your place is not on the city streets.
It should not be that you get to go play,
because the reason I say that is because guess what? They would never be allowed in the military.
No, they wouldn't. It's like the samurai. The samurai had a very beautiful, like they knew every day they walked out, they actually expected to die. The difference here is these people are expecting to come home and eat macaroni and cheese for dinner. When you approach your life in the opposite way because you decided to take a job that's like that, it's like, don't kid yourself. That's why you run up on cars. Get the fuck out of the car. You know, you can't even go, "Hi, officer. What happened?" There's none of that anymore. It's jump on you, spit on you. You know, another military guy, same thing happened with him recently with more cops. And frankly, I'm sick of looking at it. I'm just sick of it. It is embarrassing in this country, and it's really disgusting because these guys have come back from the war and they are mentally pazzo. They will never be the same again. I don't know what.
But I don't think that these ones that feel like they should have these guns would even pass the military mental exam.
No, they wouldn't. And then what? They go out and find the ghost guns. And that's why Biden wants to create.
Well, that's why I'm glad that he's doing this executive order.
But still, it's like, why should we be bothered with these people in Japan when people created such dishonor to your family? They're like sweeping the streets or doing something. They're totally pushed away from the society. Some people are just lost causes. They're just lost. Bring back the lobotomy. Give it to them. I don't give a damn. I mean, there's no other way to say it. If somebody has a fixation on something, guns or enough, get rid of it. And also, the entertainment business needs to freaking bone up and be really realistic. They helped to manifest some of it too. Was it art imitating life or life imitating art? You sell somebody something. It's like the sugar business. When are we all, people woke up and decided, I'm not going to eat that much sugar. Why doesn't everybody just go, you know what? I think we should figure out how to forge ahead as a group of people. Be more solution oriented. No, people here, I want it the same way. I still want my kids to believe in Santa Claus, and I want them to believe what I believed. You know, even with the new technological changes, I still want the tooth fairy, and I want everything to be like, where did that concept come from? Movies, propaganda. You were trained to believe that you had it. It's so traditional. That's all bullshit. And the sooner people just like go, yeah, I don't need to get together with my family on Easter. What is that? What's the rabbit and what's the crucifixion? What is this?
Well, we
I'm
got
done
rid
with
of
it.
Afternoon Town. We got rid of our last gun manufacturing site. We had, because we used to be a serious gun manufacturing state. We had like several facilities in my hometown, which was full of gun violence. We had a big manufacturing plant of guns, and one of the reasons that the guns got out of hand is because you have people who work there stealing the guns and
Right, of
selling them
course.
in the black market. And so after Newtown, they closed one of those last facilities, and South Carolina took it.
Yeah, but
And
America is
it
so
was,
ridiculous
but here's the
because
thing. I said that
Mhm.
this was going to happen. I said, when that happened, I said, you know what? South Carolina is going to take Connecticut's problem. They're going to end up with a mass shooting.
But it doesn't matter where, it's anywhere.
Yeah.
It's that's the thing about guns. And here's the thing, they didn't even have an annual report. Biden is asking for a report
Yeah.
to determine what guns are ending up cross lines and cross states or being trafficked. Because if he puts a federal law in there, it will supersede whatever the state decides to play games with. And we know that Tennessee, in the middle of putting more strict voting rights, they actually made it open carry the other day, their governor. These are twisted people in these offices. They're very demonic. And I don't even really go into that devil stuff. But if I had to scrape the surface on just saying, where these people are just on a level of spirituality, their suffering causes them to want more people to suffer. And I just can't deal with that anymore. I've had enough of these. And they all these rubber faced 60, 70-year-old white men. It's like, dudes, retire with your money, go somewhere. But they need to be held accountable.
Yeah.
I'm just over it.
And I can tell you this, I did this report several years back that I was contracted out to do. And what I found is that every state has a different mechanism for tracking how guns are either sold, dispensed, or just where the guns are. And because of that, the federal government can't get a hold of actual numbers. And you've got a lot of states that are just very lazy in their bookkeeping. And that's part of the problem. And that's why we need to have the universal background checks. That's why we need to have a record of who has what guns. You go to a state like Tennessee, for example. They don't know who has guns because they don't keep track of it. People can buy and sell a gun. It's like in some states were very good about it because they knew what gun got sold from who to who to who, because they made a law that said you had to, when a gun was sold, you had to file the paperwork, and they had to keep track of it. But you have other places that once the gun was sold to someone else, like a
Well,
second
that's all
sale.
because of the NRA. I mean,
Yeah.
that's them, and that's that old nonsense of old blockhead Charlton Heston and the other one, John Wayne, and their crap. These
And
people
Wayne
idolize
LaPierre.
that sentiment. It's just absolutely phenomenally ridiculous
So
how steeped in
let me just
BS
jump
this
in for a
country
second.
is.
So we got, of course, we can't go broadcast with a hashtag Team Jill from Birdie Lynn. And I guess a little while back. The Birdie Lynn said she went on a date with someone like that. I left the date.
Might have killed
Good.
you.
Yes,
Yeah.
brainwashing is
Exactly.
real. She also says bottom barrel talent.
Yeah.
And then Chris says, just on a comment on what Jill said, when I was right out of high school in Boston, the guys who became cops, all of them, punks, bullies, etc., looking for a legal okay to continue their sad, angry ways. And that is frightening. T. Stevens says, I believe Jill has a martial arts side to her. I recommend the book The Five Rings by Marimato Musashi.
Oh, okay. I'll check it out.
And then also, we now have Team Aisha.
Yeah.
All right. And Birdie Lynn saying, yeah, John Wayne a mess. LOL.
I know. Lord.
It's hopefully
it's just tragic. Yeah, hopefully.
Hopefully the gun thing will be alleviated, because
it's never going to happen, because we have too many petty politicians who take money. They take money to turn the other way. They take money.
Then I can
it's
only
literally
imagine
blood money for people to die.
If something doesn't change, then 20 years from now, this is going to be not the country you're going to want to live in.
No.
20 years?
Well, remember,
but I say by that time, it will be just everybody will be armed, because it will be really, and I've always said to people, you need to have a plan and start thinking out of the box now. If you plan on raising children and you really want them to be here, I'm not so sure there's one state that's decent enough to take care of my children.
And think about it. I mean, even after the insurrection, they came there armed. Okay. They had the building with the politicians in it surrounded, and they still won't do anything.
Well, that's a fiasco. It's like, you got to move on these people really quickly. But it's like I said, there's something wrong with the citizens. It's just the people. It's just the people. People will only allow because of who they are. Face it. These are the people. These are American people. And the best thing that can come out of this is the big reveal that maybe other countries are going to because I know they're putting in passport laws for the vaccines and all this stuff. Maybe there's just a really great way to keep some people out of their milieu. When you realize that the danger isn't really external, it's in the house. This is America. Tell me, I mean, this is the country, and we don't watch what we eat. We don't watch what we watch. We don't watch what we glorify. We exploit everybody, everything. Nothing's tangible. Nothing's real. You look at someone's life on Instagram. That's not real. I can tell you. There's all of this. Everybody's being paid a buck, whoring and hustling. That's all it is. The whores hustle and the hustlers whore. This is it. This is what we do here.
There's a knowledge bomb there from hashtag Team Jill just dropped another knowledge bomb. Let's move forward. Vaccine passports won't be mandated by the federal government. What?
No. But if you want to go anywhere else in the world,
you need it.
You're going to need it, because what they found out is that with the Israel has already made a deal with Greece and another country where their people will be able to go back and forth freely. And they had tried this little system where they gave everybody like a green card, and it has a QR code on it, but they've discovered that QR codes can be hacked. And so they're trying to create an international barcode or something like that. Well, the evangelicals here are going to lose their mind on that and be into 666, and that's how everybody's going to go crazy biblical.
Oh boy.
So I already anticipate the dimwits already coming out, and after a while it's like, fine, do it. I don't really care anymore. But you will need it to travel to many countries. People don't remember that. Hell, when you would even take your dog over to England back in the day, you'd have to have your dog in quarantine for like 3 months because of an island. They didn't want rabies, and they didn't have it in the country. So I can only imagine they should be stricter on the people coming over there.
Yeah.
And New Zealand's going to do the same. So if the people who don't want to get any of the shots or anything, then good, stay home. We'll get on planes and we'll go. And I think Canada will probably have to have one. Are you guys going to do a vaccine passport?
Yeah, I haven't heard yet, but I'm almost thinking that definitely it will have to we'll go that direction, because I know in Britain they already have that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's not going to be forever, but until people get their shots, the mutations are going to continue. This is going to go on for a few more years.
Yeah.
So
I think if the passports aren't going to be mandated by the federal government, then I think that certain businesses should start asking for them, requiring them for admittance. For example, I'm thinking of something like a movie theater. You're talking about people who are going to be in a crowded space for a number of hours, likely wanting to take the mask off to eat popcorn and drink their Coca-Colas. Well, you should have to have a vaccine to be able to go in there and do that.
That's a good point. That's a really interesting point, Aisha. Really and truly. Maybe it has to get to the point where we have that passport everywhere we go.
well, yeah, because I mean, with the mutations, I mean, it took us almost a year to figure out certain aspects of COVID-19, like that one. And now the mutations are even more contagious. People have had the vaccine and gotten COVID. Thank God they weren't hospitalized, but it has happened. Pfizer is working on a booster system already.
Yeah.
They think because they've got a few people in trials right now doing boosters, because they're trying to keep up with they've definitely caught up with the South African one, but the biggest concerning one is the one in Brazil. The 6 or 7 of them.
Brazil is out of control. Brazil is out of
absolutely.
The president of that country,
Bolsonaro.
irresponsible.
He is Trump. He's just another cutout of that pig. And Bolsonaro is going to be out soon. Something in me tells me, I don't know what it is, but he's going to be done.
Yeah, I like
and because he is literally letting people die in the favelas and everywhere.
Yeah.
But he doesn't care. They're out of oxygen. How do you run out of oxygen?
another hashtag for tonight. I know, ladies. I mean, like when you got your community creating hashtags based on your knowledge bombs you're dropping, that's phenomenal. I'm not going to repeat the hashtag name because Jill already dropped it already. But if you watch the replay, you're going to see it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that gentleman in Brazil, that president.
Also, let's give Dr. Fauci a break. He's got to tiptoe over absolutely every bloody thing he says because he gets so many death threats. Hell, I don't even know. I'd be like, hang on, because they blame him for everything. These are people that blame other people for their life, everything that happens wrong in their lives. You know, I really don't know if I would just be.
Look, they break a toenail and they blame Kamala Harris.
Yeah, it's true. It's disgusting.
Right now, they want her to renounce the K-Hive because she had people defending her.
Oh, please. I don't even want to I don't even look forward to, I think the one thing I'm looking forward to is people going back to their offices so that all that nonsense that they're sitting next to Janie after Janie saw what Susie was posting all over through the pandemic. I'm just looking for those moments to happen where we see who's going to squish back up and become a little mouse burger sitting there again. We need more mouse burgers. We've had way too many people thinking that they're the Mac up in here.
So Bernie Lynn says, yes, watch the replay. Chris says he just had to drop that hashtag. And Bernie Lynn says, LOL K-Hive.
I know.
Crazy. Oh, cray. So let's move on to the final portion of all our conversations now. This episode's cockroach. And I've got
Wow.
yes, yeah. This lady. Yeah, and I spelled her name wrong, so I'm gonna bring up the story. And I'm just going. And thanks to Aisha for bringing up this episode's cockroach. And this is a tweet as we bring it up. Unfortunately, if you're listening, you can't see it. But there's a tweet from a Juju at JN_Weber. Is it sad DMX pass? Yes. Should every black man miss work to mourn? No. I said what I said. Call me Karen, call me cracker, and be racist as, I'm not going to say that word, but white shouldn't miss work either if white famous people pass away unless you were close. Yeah, what the heck is this lady talking about?
She's crazy.
This was an
bipolar. I don't know.
Exactly. This was an instance where somebody could have just
more polar, not bipolar. Polar.
Yeah, polar. She could have just sat in her corner and ate her mayonnaise sandwich in silence. Okay, that's what this was. And then people went off on her. And when I say people went off, they literally dug up pictures of her with box braids and different appropriation things on her timeline of her saying, of her looking like Rachel Dolezal.
I don't know what to say.
But I just thought it was funny because like nobody said this.
Birdie Lynn.
Well, she's part of Team Jill, so she just beat you to the punch, right?
Right. Like no one ever said this, that they were taking off work.
So Birdie Lynn, we're asking people to come on. When you coming back? You've only been on once with the ladies. You got to come on. Jill wants you on now for big time because she's like you're becoming Jill's adopted daughter.
And Chris Langford too. They're like,
yes, you guys got to come on.
Boom with this stuff.
You guys are really good. We need you to come on.
Oh.
We need to come on. But yes, this is just. Wow.
But Lincoln, Washington, and Christopher Columbus is all I got to say.
Okay. I'm not going to go there.
Oh, those are white people that we miss days off work from.
Right.
Look at this. Oh, Chris says, "Oh Lord, Juju, the queen of the cockroaches. She needs to sit in her front yard and eating a dirt sandwich like the yahoo that she is." Ugh.
Wow.
Yeah, man, Jill has really educated her tribe well, eh? And
well, that was Aisha and the dirt mayonnaise sandwich, not me.
Oh, Cinema Canela, you coming in right now? Oh, how could you be like that? How could you be like we're talking about dirt sandwiches?
And the Republican Party, they do it every afternoon.
It got so bad for Juju that she had to delete her account.
Yeah, her account is deleted.
But that's what happens. It's like I said. People who are suffering always want to see somebody else suffering.
Yeah, hurting people hurt people.
Yeah, it's like, why would you, okay, it's you, DMX, it's terribly sad. It's like, but so then don't comment on it. But then you want to do one-upmanship and say, well, then white people should have a time off. There's something that I'm just trying to understand with this, white people feeling left out of the party. They've been running the party for they've been running things for so long. You would think that, I don't know, you'd let somebody else host it for a little bit. I mean, come on. It's like, it's kind of like, it's like, if I keep going, you're going to the same old dance every year. And then finally another group gets to run the prom, at school. And you're like, great. Yeah, that's going to be fun. Give it up. Nobody's trying to get over. We just want everybody to have a perspective, and everybody see it. We don't want the pecking order of like black people beating up Asian people or vice versa. Yeah. None of that, because that's another thing. People who got upset in that, you know, these men, these African American men loving to beat on these Asian women on not, it's a
Yeah,
general
what is
thing.
going on?
Yeah, and
We'll
then
have
the
to say,
two who
let's
shut the door, they
save that till next week.
Yes.
Let's save that till
Yeah,
next
we
week.
got to stop
Yeah.
it. If
Yeah.
you're oppressed, you
And-
should all the more reason not want to oppress anybody.
Okay, so you know what?
Yeah.
As we're going to close up here, folks, this is something I'm gonna do totally you haven't done before. If anyone has a question they want to ask Jill and Aisha live right now before we close out, please let's do it. Don't mind, because as you see, they got their hashtag family here in the house. So before we close out, give you a few moments if you have to want to ask them a question. Would love to do that. But here's Birdie Lynn says, yeah, it's toxic masculinity. It's worse than that.
It is.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, what do we do with that? I mean, it's crazy.
Okay. And she's also saying exactly, stop Asian hate.
Absolutely.
And she's also saying no one should be oppressed.
No, we should all want to root for each other. I don't know why that's so damn difficult.
Okay. Well, we're going to close it out. Chris is saying, Dr. Vibe, Aisha, Jill, as always, thank you. Have a great
You too, Chris.
week. Bless you
too,
all.
Chris.
We want you on one of these days, Chris. We want you on. We're waiting, but it's all right. So, ladies, another epic conversation done. That like flew.
It did, right?
That flew. Like I'm just going, wow, that was quick, but it was good. It was good. So we always say before we leave, we'd love to get contact information. So first up, Miss Jill, how can people touch base with you?
Jill D. Jones at Twitter, probably the easiest.
The easiest, and that's where you're going to find her dropping knowledge bombs and creating hashtags, and has her hashtag family. That is good. Next up, Aisha.
Aisha Staggers on Twitter.
Fantastic. Nice, easy, to the point, and to the drill. There we go. And it's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show. Okay. All right. Yes, Cinnamon Canela. Yes, time really went fast. You were late. That's why it went fast. And then Chris says, I will come on sometime. We're going to hold you to that, Chris.
Oh, good.
It's live. We're going to hold you to that. And T. Stevens, another great show. Thanks, y'all. Thank you so much. And then Jill in Twitter, lovely homemade bread. Oh my gosh, Jill, come on now.
Yeah.
You got the man. Maybe we have to do a segment where we have Jill's baking segment.
Yeah, I might have to.
May have to do that. I'm telling you. All right. Well, it's Dr. Vibe here. I'm host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations. I'm the host of Epic Conversations 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner, 2018 Innovation Award winner, both given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. Once a month, I host an only online broadcast in the world that is for fathers and men, that is sponsored by Dove Men Care and Dad Central Canada's National Fatherhood Organization. Also, I am the board chair for the Global Food and Drink Initiative, which is a multimedia not-for-profit that showcases Blacks around the world that are doing great things in food, wine, and travel. Got some more comments coming in here, so I got to make sure I read them. All right, let's get to the more comments here. All right. Yes. Chris says, he spelled it wrong, but I saw the bread, Jill. Yum. Yes, he did correct himself. Yum. He goes, that. You better. Yes. So Birdie Lynn is now pushing Chris. You better. So you too, Birdie Lynn, you need to come on also. So that is it. So let's get back to it. Yes, I can be found at my website address, which is www.thedrvibeshow, all things Dr. Vibe there. As always, I end off with this. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get smaller to get stronger. Block assumptions, then aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. Also, remember to give yourselves grace. We will see you back in a week because you like us, especially the two ladies, because the hashtags, they're going to have to make a hashtag directory for Jill and Aisha, their hashtag directory. But all things, remember to stay safe, keep safe. We'll see you next week. God bless, peace to all, keep the faith, and walk good.